So the recording has started. As I just said, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, email, come off mute and ask them. More than glad to help out. I was talking with Terry and John about what was of interest in the topic today is software composition analysis, as well as using sandboxes to scan features and functionality. I wanted to see, John, I see you joining. So do you have anything to add to that, John?
Yeah, also like to make sure we cover how to request mitigations on flaws in first-party and third-party code, and how to use the portal to do that.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is jump into sandbox scanning and mitigations first, because those two do go hand in hand in a way. So let me go ahead and share out my screen, and I am logged into my demo instance of the Veracode platform. And so I'm not touching any of the production data. I'm not touching the Diva data. This is just my demo instance. I just want to make that, put that out there for the team. So when you are logged into the platform and you go to the application that you're scanning, what you would do is you would open up the application that you were working on. So for example, I have demo 06/12/2021 as an application. Let's say I was doing some development for this application, and I was making, adding features or wanted to test functionality, but it wasn't made to the main branch. I was doing this on a separate function branch that I'm testing. That would be a great candidate for use of Sandbox. So I know the team, I've been working with John and team to make sure that everyone has the ability to use sandboxes. So when you come into the application profile, you'll see that each application profile gets 25 sandboxes. So you're able to create a sandbox, and you can name it whatever you'd like. So naming it, if you're testing a piece of functionality for a specific piece of code, you can name it your function's name, or if it was your own sandbox because you were working on multiple different pieces of code that you wanted to check, you could then name it, for my instance, James Salerno's sandbox. But for this here, I'm just going to call it specific code and create. And you'll see that I now, when this page loads, we'll have a sandbox here called specific code. When you come over and click on specific code, you would now be able to start a scan in the sandbox. And so what's key here, and I want to call this out, we have rolling sandbox history turned on. So each sandbox can have a history of up to 15 scans. So it's first in, first out. Let's say you've hit scan number 16. Scan number 1, once you do scan number 16, scan number 1 will drop off in the history, and you will not be able to access those scan results going forward. Just know it's just the last 15 scans that you have access to when you come into your sandbox. If you're scanning often, that's one good thing to know. But when you're in the sandbox area, you'd be able to click start a scan, and this is, the workflow here is the same way as if you were scanning the application manually. You would add in your scan name. This could be anything. By default, it's the date and the type of scan. And if the first time you're scanning, you can turn the auto scan to pre-scan to off, so you can select your entry points in your module selection, or you can leave it on, and Veracode will do its best guess at that. When you do that, you'll hit save and continue. And this is like running a static analysis scan at the policy level, but this is just at the sandbox. So what you'll want to do is, if you have your if you compiled and packaged up your your function that you're working on, or the features that you're working on, you grab that the package, if it's a .NET.zip file, if it's a Java, the ER, the WAR, the jar file. So we'll go ahead, select file, just grab the WAR file, hit hit that, and it's going to upload the WAR file. Once it's done, I'll click next, and this will, this will kick off the pre-scan. So auto scan after pre-scan is turned on. So this is going to do the pre-scan, and once it's completed, it'll run the scan for this particular sandbox. And once the scan is run, you'll see the sandbox results here are grayed out right now. You'll be able to view the report, the flaw sources, and the key part here is triage flaws. You'll be able to go into the triage flaw viewer and be able to review the results, the findings. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump up to the application level and go to the triage flaw there, because the workflow is the same for mitigating flaws as well. So I'm coming to my latest scan. I clicked on that triage flaw in the left-hand navigation. So I came down here, came to the scan, and clicked on triage flaw. Now we see that the triage flaw viewer is up. We have the local source code viewer. I'm just going to turn that to none so we can just see the table of results. And you'll see here that all these flaws are newfound flaws and no mitigation to them. So if I click on view flaw details here, you'll see the description, the remediation, and down here there's an action. In the action, you can add comments if you're working on it. You can comment on what you're trying to do to remediate it, or when you're planning on remediating it, or you can propose mitigations. And so that would be mitigated by design. If there's a framework or something within Windows that you were using, for example, that would mitigate this potential flaw, you would say mitigate by design. We're using this framework instead of that framework, and this is why we don't deem it as a flaw to us. Or we can say mitigated by network environment. Our application sits behind a web application firewall, and it would block traffic, so the user wouldn't be able to access that functionality. OS environment, potential false positive. If I'm not sure how much second party code is used at Nextiva, so development team A has created code, development team B wants to use team A's code, they use it. That would be an instance of reported to library maintainer. If team B found something in team A's code, they could say, I reported this to team A. They're responsible for fixing it, not me. Or we're willing to just accept the risk. Something that was informational or low, it'd be a lot more work, or would involve rewriting the code completely. Or that's something that's not really feasible at the time. We could say we're willing to accept the risk. No matter what you choose here, you will have to provide a reasoning behind this. So you can't take any action until you put your reasoning in. And what we're going to see here is we would want to put the reasons in that so that the mitigation approver can understand clearly what the reasoning is and why it's not a threat or risk to Nextiva that you're mitigating the flaw out. So, the InfoSec team or the administrator has designated mitigation approvers, and their job is once you as a developer come in, put the reasoning in and hit save, you'll see actually here that a row gets created that you propose to accept the risk for a reason. And when we do that, here, you'll see up here, the mitigation status went from none to proposed. And so, that would be the path to propose the mitigation. The team member that has the mitigation approver role would then come into the menu here, come to the mitigations tab. They would look for that particular mitigation that was proposed. So we see this is right here. They would be able to approve, reject, or comment. So, this was, we should just accept it for this reason. That's not enough. My recommendation is whoever the mitigation approver is to work with the development teams closely, understand what their reasoning is. When they approve it, they would have to, acknowledge that they're approving it for whatever reason. If they reject it, it gets rejected, and they have this, if I reject, I'll provide reasoning as to why. And then, so if we approve it, I successfully updated it. And when we come back into that triage flaw view here, you'll see that that first flaw that I proposed mitigation is now approved. So, very quickly, that was going into the application profile and creating that sandbox. And then submitting a scan, which is already actually complete. Then, once you have your scan results, going into your triage flaw, reviewing the results, and then proposing a mitigation and the mitigation workflow within the triage flaw viewer in the mitigation tab. So I am taking a quick look really quickly at the chat, and there's a question is, how should we integrate this with the development process? So most applications, I believe, are set up with automated scanning that gets scanned at a regular basis, at a regular frequency. Sandboxes are really meant to be as you are developing functionality. If you're adding new functions or testing, if we added this function, how would this fit within the application without it hitting the policy level? You can scan it within the sandbox and get the results. So that way you have an understanding of where it would be in relation to the policy. So, if I come into this sandbox here, you'll see that this scan has completed. We'll be able to see what findings were, how many findings were, what types of findings they were. We have the same triage flaw viewer, so we'll understand what the risk is. So you'll be able to come in and then go to the source and update be able to start remediating your findings in your functionality. And then when your feature or function then gets merged into the main branch, then it will go up for the policy scan at the regular scanning cadence of your application.
Yeah, this is John. The sandbox is meant for manual tests or manual testing while you're developing code or while you're developing a fix to see if the scan will pass after you've made changes. All of the code should be set up in Jenkins pipelines to automatically scan when things are built. And then just a comment about the mitigation stuff. There isn't anything within the Veracode platform that notifies anybody if you propose a mitigation. So you still have to reach out to security team if you do that, so that we can know that it's there and take a look at it. And we've done a number of these in the past, and it usually involves some conversation between us and the developer on exactly how the code's used and what the flaw is and how, if that mitigation makes sense. But I think in all cases where we've had a case where we've needed to do a mitigation, that we have approved it and it has made sense.
And to further add to that, the one thing I will say is if you propose a mitigation in your sandbox, so you can, the same mitigation workflow here in the sandboxes exist. If it gets approved, when you merge your function or your code into the main branch and it gets built and rolled up into the policy scan, it wouldn't carry the mitigation from your sandbox up unless you promote your sandbox from a sandbox to a policy scan. And if you're not scanning the whole application in the sandbox, you wouldn't want to do that. So just be aware where you're proposing your mitigations. If you're proposing mitigations within a sandbox, it won't carry to the policy. You'll want to propose your mitigations within the policy scan. So, at this, you'll see I'm in the sandbox results triage flaw. What you'll want to make sure you're doing is you're in the application triage flaw viewer. So you'll see application, it doesn't say sandbox results here, it just says results and triage flaws. You'll want to make sure you're at that level if you're proposing mitigation. So that way it's at the application level or the policy scan level. Perfect. Before I jump into software composition analysis, really quickly, I'm going to just open up my desktop. I was going to open up remote desktop so I could show you really quickly. Veracode does have IDE plugins available. So when I talked to John, I believe the team uses IntelliJ, and if not, Eclipse and looks similar. We do have the Veracode upload and scan plugin. And so you'd grab your API credentials from the Veracode platform, come into options, and you would configure, in Veracode, add your credentials in here, your API credentials. When you've done that, if you click on Veracode, you can upload and scan. There we go. So, you can do an upload and scan to, you'd find first off, you'd find the application profile that you wanted to be scanning on. And then you would define if you wanted to do a policy scan or a sandbox scan. So if you wanted to do a sandbox scan, you just check the sandbox. This has the sandbox that I was already in for specific code. You can name your scan here, create the scan. This all does it right from your IDE. You don't have to do that, you log into the UI and do a manual upload. And then what you would do here is you click on add, you would pull up your target from your IDE, hit open, hit upload, and this will do the upload. So it matches the same as a file name as previous scan. So if I upload that, I can hit yes, and this will kick off the scan just like I did in the platform UI, but right from the IDE. Do I want to start the scan after pre-scan? Yes. So pre-scan is started. Scan, I'll be notified when completed. So this, the plugin from IntelliJ will allow me to do the upload and scan right from here. And then I can download the results or view the results as well within the IDE. Let me download the results really quickly. So, if I came in here and said, okay, I want to download the results for the application, the sandbox scan, pick the sandbox and the scan. If I download the results here, you'll see the same thing, similar to that triage flaw viewer, but now it's within your IDE. And if you, so right here, this particular finding is an informational. If I double click it, and because I have the .java file open, it'll bring me right down to line 414, and we'll see this is a improper resource shutdown or release. So, we'll have the finding here. You'll be able to see right where in the code it is. If we look at that particular finding again, if I check off this, check this off here, I can take the action and propose a mitigation right here. Again, same workflow as within the, this is in the sandbox level, but so if you were pulling results and doing that, you want to do that from your policy scan level. But same workflow within the IDE here. But this is, I wanted to show you this because Veracode really is meant to be used as a headless platform. This makes it much easier to submit scans. And I do see someone did post the link to JetBrains, which is excellent. I do have a Veracode, a link to the Veracode community. I'll send you the link here in chat for the IntelliJ IDE. But if you go one level up from that, the integrations page on the community will show you all the integrations that Veracode does have. And actually, let me share that really quickly on the screen. So if you go to the community.veracode.com, you'll click on the integrations. We'll click on IDE, Veracode for IntelliJ here. And there's two plugins that you see: IDE scan plugin, which is formerly known as Greenlight, and policy scan plugin. The one I demonstrated for you today here is the policy scan plugin, which allows you to scan at the scan either sandbox or policy level. And there's documentation, installation guides, and forums within the community available for you. And to use those integrations, you'll need your API credentials. Okay, let me. I just have to drop off my organization's VPN. For some reason, it does not like when I'm on the VPN to be in the platform. When you log into the Veracode platform, what you'll see here on the left-hand side is API credentials. Once you're logged in, you'll click on API credentials. It'll bring you to the page where you can generate your API credentials. If you have already done that, but you didn't save them in a secure location, you can always generate your API credentials. That will revoke your current API credentials, pop open a new ID and secret key, copy those to a secure location, and use those going forward. They're valid for 1 year. So any questions on kicking off a sandbox scan, reviewing the results within the platform or within the IDE or the mitigation workflow? I'll give a minute here if anybody wants to type questions or come off mute and ask. All right, so the next thing here that I'm going to show is our software composition analysis. And so when you come into the platform, you'll see software composition analysis. I'll click on software composition analysis. When you do an upload and scan, you'll be able to, I apologize, give me 1 second. I just got to drop on mute. We just had a contractor show up and our dogs are going crazy. So I apologize for that. So getting back to this, when you do an upload and scan, software composition analysis already occurs. So when the automation and the build process where Jenkins automatically uploads and scans to Veracode, you'll see if we come into software composition analysis, you'll see the applications show up, and you'll be able to come into the applications that you are working on. So, we'll stick with this demo 06, 012, 01, 2021. And you'll see that we can look at number of known vulnerabilities by severity. So in this application, we see no very highs, 16 highs, 14 mediums, 6 lows. If I click on the application name, here, we'll jump in and we'll see what third-party components are part of this application that are they're passing my policy for this application. If they weren't, you'll see a red shield here, but we'll see the component file name. And we'll see, so for this one, Spring Web, you'll see that there's 7 known highs, 1 medium, 1 low. And if we click on the component file name, we would be able to see, this is running version 3.0.4 release. If we come in here, we could see what other versions are available with what known vulnerabilities are. So if we look at here, Spring Web 5.3.9 has no known vulnerabilities. That might be a better component to upgrade to. So if you're using the 3.0.4.release version, we may want to update to this, rebuild the application, and rescan. I'm checking out the chat. There's no other questions on that. For the mitigation workflow with the third-party licenses, there's no real mitigation workflow to call out. They are there. You wouldn't be able to. You're not able to mark it as mitigated or approved or anything. So just wanted to call that out here. There's no way to mitigate it with third party. You're either running a vulnerable version or you're not. So
this is John. You do mitigate these by actually you have to go and mitigate the specific CVEs individually.
So I wasn't familiar with that. I thought that they used to be able to, but
no, you still can. So you have to you can't do it from this window. That's why I was hoping you could train us on this, because it's not obvious. You have to go to vulnerabilities on this there, right? And that's going to list the CVEs. Then you can click on the CVE specifically, right? And then you can do mitigation there.
Okay. I thought that
it's cryptic and it's unwieldy to use, but that's how you have to do it. You have to look at every specific CVE in the the package that's a concern and verify that we're not vulnerable to every one of them.
Okay, yeah, I thought this functionality was done away with because what the conversations is with the third party library, if it's there, you're running a vulnerable version in production. But if you did, for example, with the Spring Web 3.0.4 release, if this is something that you had to have and you weren't able to upgrade because it broke functionality, there is the way to mitigate it. You'd come in, check it off, and then you again select your action of mitigating by. It might be by design, and then hitting apply. This is again where you would comment that, and then you'd let the security team know that you're mitigating those. Any questions on that? Just checking to see. All right. So This is the upload and scan version of software composition analysis. John, would you like me to go through the agent-based scanning as well?
I don't think so, because I'm not sure that we actually have many of our applications configured for the agent-based scanning.
Okay, just, from a quick standpoint of agent-based scanning, there is a way with agent-based scanning, you can run the scan right from your desktop as a developer. So you would have an understanding of what the third-party risk is for your application, in real time. So, if you'd like me to show that from the, from developer desktop, you can then see the scan results and see there's a little bit of difference. You'd be able to get some remediation guidance on how to fix the third-party libraries. And it can give you dependency graphs as well. With the agent-based scanning, you get a little bit more detail, and that would show you dependency graphs. So where it fits to your first-party code. Is it a direct call from your first-party code to a library, or is it or is it a transitive library? So is it, is your first-party code calling a library, calling another library, and it'll show you where exactly the vulnerabilities are. But if you're just using the upload and scan currently, this should be, upload and scan does it automatically for third party. And then when you come into your software into the application, into vulnerabilities, you are able to select these, like John mentioned, and apply the mitigations. Any questions? John, is there anything else that you'd like me to cover on the platform? I know we covered sandbox scans from the platform, from the IDE as well, and then reviewing the software composition analysis and the mitigation workflow.
Let's see, I guess those are the main things I was looking to have covered. I guess you can, I'm not sure how many people on the call have logged into the portal before or used it. And if there are other questions about the portal, you can you can find the application list by going to the My Portfolio and applications. Right, so all the applications are there. I think by default they're normally sorted by the most recent scan, but you can sort them by alphabetically or whatever to find the application you're looking for. And then in our, it's just specific to Nextiva, the policies that we have set in place are that anything that any defect that's found that's a very high or high has to be fixed based on our policy. So if you're, and that applies to first party code, right? Code that we write and code that is the third party code. So if that policy shield there in the middle is red, that means either first party code or third party code has a problem. And then if it's green, then it means it passed the scan. So if your application like that one there passed the scan, then you don't have anything to worry about, or there's nothing for you that is necessary to be fixed. If it's red, then there is something that has to be fixed or mitigated.
So Well, I believe we accomplished the goals of what we were trying to achieve and what we wanted to cover during the session today. I'm more than glad to hang out with folks to answer any questions. If you wanted to hang around and ask any other questions, or if there's anything, I'm more than glad. If not, I appreciate your time. If something comes up or any functionality questions come up after this call, you do have my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than glad to assist. If I'm not the right person, I'm more than glad to get you in touch with the appropriate team here within Veracode. One thing, and John, one thing I do want to comment is that what is available for the team, if you are having some struggle with remediation of certain flaws or they're hard within your application profile, we can go into that triage flaw viewer again. I just want to call out, we can schedule a consultation. So if there's particular flaws or flaw categories that you're having trouble remediating those flaws and getting that right, if you reach out to John and team and the security team can't assist, we do have application security consultants at Veracode that would be able to assist you. Click on schedule a consultation. This is part of the service package purchased, and you would say have specific questions on a static scan. If it's CWE or risk categories or findings or flaws, you'd be able to call out what you wanted to cover with the application security consultant. And they would be able to assist you directly on that. So call it that. There's a question is, can we use this with Salesforce code? The answer is yes. And what I'm going to do is jump into the Veracode Help Center. There's a packaging requirements document, and the packaging is going to be Apex. So it's Visualforce Lightning Web Components and Aura Lightning Components as well. So as long as it's the Apex code from Salesforce. Okay. So Carlos, does that answer your question? Excellent. Julio, I see that you generated credentials and you are trying to use Greenlight. That is something that Brad and John from the, Brady and John would have to ensure that the team has the Greenlight IDE user role assigned. So, for their perspective here, they would come into the admin. They would, find the user that you're looking for here. And ensure that you have the Greenlight IDE user role checked off. And once they assign that.
Right. We probably don't have that assigned for people because that wasn't something that we were licensed for in the past. So that's probably something we left off. So we have to go back and fix that too.
So, excellent. Excellent. Well, I'll stay here for another minute or two. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point, where we've covered all the main portion of this. So appreciate you allowing me to